Okay, guys, today we're going to be talking about comparing and ordering rational numbers. And the first thing we're going to talk about are some things that maybe happen in the real world. You've got the links of several common types of insects are shown in the table. How can we compare these links? And so, first, question number one, which of the insects is the longest? So here you've got 3/4. You've got the cricket, which is 1/1, which would be one whole, right? And then you have the fire ant, which is 1/3 of an inch. You've got a firefly that's 3/4 of an inch. You've got the housefly, which is 1/4 of the inch. The Japanese beetle is 1/2 an inch, and the mosquito is 5/8 of an inch. And so, which one is the longest? So you notice that all of these are all part of a whole, except for which one? The cricket. That's right, because it's the cricket, it equals one whole, which is 1 whole inch. Now we're going to look at, maybe this is better, but I'm trying to keep from having a shadow for you. So this would be the cricket. Okay, now it says to draw, trying to make it better, draw a model to represent the links of a fire ant and a housefly. A fire ant and a housefly. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do those handy dandy little fraction strips, right? That I like to draw. And so this top one is going to be the housefly. And the bottom one is going to be the fire ant. Then the housefly was 1/4 of an inch. So we obviously have to divide that fraction strip into fourths. So I'm going to start with the 1/2 mark and then divide that into 2 parts, divide that into 2 parts, and I've got 4. And the bottom one is 1/3. So I have to divide that into 3 equal parts, which would be about there and about here. Okay, does not line up with the fourths. Okay, so this would be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. Okay, and they said that the let me get my colored pencils. That the housefly would be 1/4, so that would be this part right here. And then the fire ant, I'm going to make it red, right? Would be right here. And so, which one would be longer? It would be the fire ant. So even if you don't understand having different denominators, which one's larger, which one's smaller, you can use the model to help you understand that without having to get common denominators. Okay, number 3. How many of the insects are longer than 5/10 of an inch? Explain how you determined this. Okay. Well, 5/10 of an inch would be 1/2, right? Because 5/10 simplifies to 1/2. And then if you look back up, is that greater than 1/2? Is this greater than 1/2? Is this greater than 1/2? And that's greater than 1/2, right? You want to think about your parts and your wholes. If the whole is 8, what's half of that? 4. 4/8 would be half. So that's greater than that, isn't it? Okay, so we had 4, and 6. And then we need to explain how we determined that. Okay? Well, didn't we compare the 5/10 to 1/2? Right? And we compared the numerators and denominators. And then we decided that if the numerator was more than half of the denominator, then the length was greater than 1/2 inch. On problem 4, they want us to order the lengths of the housefly, the green June beetle, and a fire ant from shortest to longest. You got to be sure that you read those questions carefully, from shortest to longest. So if we're looking at the housefly, so the housefly is here, the green June beetle, which is here, and then the fire ant, which is here. And we want to put them in order from shortest to longest. Then, I love you too. So the shortest would be, the 1/4, right? Which would be your housefly, right? So we'd have 1/4. And next would be the fire ant with 1/3, wouldn't it? And then you would have the green June beetle, which would be 3/4. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, how did she know how to pick which one's which? Think about your holes. Those 2 parts are the same, right? But if the hole has 4 parts and this hole has 3 parts, isn't this one going to be smaller than that one? You can always think about slices of pie, pieces of pizza. And then if you have 3/4, that's definitely going to be larger. Okay, very good. Let's look at the next page, page 78. Okay, page 78 at the top says positive and negative rational numbers, or you can think of fractions, can be represented on a number line. That would also include not just fractions, I said, but that could be your decimals as well. You can use a number line to help you compare and order rational numbers. Okay, so here we have, it says locate the decimals on a number line. You have negative and you have positive. Well, obviously, that negative is going to be smaller than the positive. So we really don't even have to worry about where it's located, okay? Because we know the negative is always going to be less than the positive. So we can go ahead and do less than. Now, when we have 2 negative numbers, right, that is going to be important for you to look at those. And so here you've got negative 1 40/100, and you have negative 1 25/100, which would fall right here. And so you know that the negative 1 40/100 is going to be less than 1 and 25 hundredths. All right. Then you've got your number 3. Number 3, it has 2 negatives, okay? And then it says rename the fractions using the least common denominator, okay? So if you notice back up here, they're showing you 3 different ways to compare these. This first one was with the number line, the horizontal number line. This is with your vertical number line. And this one is with getting common denominators so that you're able to compare those fractions, okay? And so on number 3, you've got negative 3/8 and negative 5/16. So we know the least common multiple of 8 and 16, our least common multiple would be 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 16 times 1 is 16. So there it is right there. And so they're showing you right here how they got their new fractions. Because you look at what did they multiply that denominator by? And then what did they come back and multiply? Whatever they multiplied that denominator by, they have to multiply that numerator by. Trying to find my neon highlighter. Okay, I found it. So, if you look at right here, this is where they did the negative 3/8. So they multiplied that 3 times 2 to get 6. They knew they had to multiply by 2 because 8 times 2 gives you 16. And they didn't forget about the negative sign. And then the same thing. Oh, well, over here it was really easy because that denominator was already 16. So they knew that they just had to multiply by 1. And then they were able to determine that negative 6 is less than negative 5. So negative 6/16 is going to be less than negative 5/16. So therefore, looking back at your original fractions, your negative 3/8 would be, and I like to do this. I like to put it below so you can see what the original was. A negative 5/16, which I know that was there, but there you can see what the original problem was. And you can see that truly this one is going to be less than that one. Okay, let's look at these. You've got 3 1/10 and negative 3 7/10. That's probably the easiest one, isn't it? Because you've got, you know that your positive is going to be greater. Okay. Oh, look over here, guys. I didn't even pay attention to this. Over here, it talks about your least common multiple, and it shows you how they did that for 8 and 16. Great. Don't forget about your little side notes. Those are important. Right here, you've got negative 4 5/10 and negative 4 49 hundredths. Okay. And so this would be like negative 4 50 hundredths, right? But because they're negative, the greater the number, the less the value, right? Okay. Or the smaller the part. And then C, we've got 9/16 and 12/16. So we only have to look at the 9 and the 12. So 9 is less than 12. So that makes it pretty easy. And then on D, you've got negative 7/10 and negative 4/5. We're going to have to get a common denominator. But looking at 10 and 5, I know that 10 would be my least common multiple. So if I do negative 4/5 and I convert it to tenths, I know that 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 4 times 2 is going to be negative 8. So if I have negative 7/10 and negative 8/10, I know that that's going to be greater. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Remember, at any time during the video, you can stop, pause, so that you have time to write all the stuff down that I write down. You can go back and rewatch it. Just use it however it's going to be best for you. All right? Then looking at page 79. On page 79, we're going to be comparing and ordering rational numbers. And it says first express them in the same form. That's really important, is they need to be in the same form for you to be able to compare them. So here you've got negative 51 hundredths and negative 8 fifteenths. So, and then they're wanting you to locate them on the number line. And so what they did is they renamed the negative 8 fifteenths as a decimal. So they probably divided, okay? And they divided the 15 into the 8. And they got and that 3 would keep repeating. Okay, and so here they had to put them on the number line. So look how they decided to divide it into increments of 5/10. When you're making your number line, you can decide what your intervals need to be based on the numbers that you need to graph. But you always want to be consistent going, well, they didn't do this on this one, but I always say put 0 in the middle, go to the same positive number and same negative number, and put arrows on the end. Excuse me. And so you can see where they plotted those numbers. Here you've got number 5. It says order this set from least to greatest. To be able to order that set, they're going to have to all be in the same form, aren't they? Now, looking at these, it says they're going to change them all to decimals. It says express negative 2 and 22 25ths and negative 2 and 1/10 as decimals to the hundredths place. And the reason why they said the hundredths place, because you already have a decimal, it's to the hundredths place. So you know they all need to be the same. Now, do you remember how I talked about look at the number relationship? 25. We know that whole number is going to be there, right? But we know that 25 will divide equally into 100, right? And that would be times 4. So 22 times 4 would be 88, wouldn't it? And here we know that 10 and 100 have a relationship, so 10 times 10 is 100. So 1 times 10 would be 10. And so negative 2 and 88 hundredths would look like this. And negative 2 and 10 hundredths would look like that. Okay, and so here they've got negative 3 there, they put negative 2 and 88 hundredths here, negative 2 and 46 hundredths here, and negative 2 and 10 hundredths there. So from least to greatest, the order would be, in the original form, would be negative 2 and 22 25ths, negative 2 and 46 hundredths, and negative 2 and 1/10. Okay, so now looking at these at the bottom, it says fill in each with less than, greater than, or equal to. So you've got negative 3 and 5/8 and negative 3 and 625 thousandths. So what I would probably do is, you can either make 625 over 1,000 and simplify it, or you could take the 5/8 and divide it and see what decimal you get. I'm going to do that. So 8 would go into 50. That would be 6 times, which would be 48. We would subtract and get 2. That would be 2, which would be 16. Subtract and get 4. Add another 0, which would be 5. Oh, look at that. So this would be negative 3 and 625 thousandths. And so those two would be equal. And they're both negative. So be careful you watch for those negative signs. Okay, same thing here. You need to take that 3/7 and divide. Okay, if you divide, we would find out that 3/7 would be greater. And then here, you would want to order these from least to greatest. Okay. Really, this one, okay, you know they're all negative, right? This one we know would be negative 7.17, right? This one is the only one we would need to worry about. And the denominator is 20, so you could have, we know 20 divides into 100, it's times 5. And so 13 times 5 would give you that answer. So that would be 3 times 5 would be 15, carry the 1, so that'd be 65. So it'd be negative 7 and 65 hundredths, which would be negative 7.65. Okay, isn't that easy? And so to put them in order from least to greatest. And you know, if it helps you, put them in order in decimal form first, you know, and then go back. Or you could look at it and go, okay, least to greatest. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. It's greatest to least. That's why you've got to read carefully. Greatest to least. So that means that this would be the greatest. Then this one. And then that one would be the least, wouldn't it? So you'd have negative 7 and 17 hundredths. Then you would have negative 7 and 13 twentieths. And then you would have negative 7 and 78 hundredths. All right. Very good. Well, I hope this helps you with your comparing and ordering rational numbers. So what we want to look at is you do have your guided practice that you are always welcome to work on. Okay, I'm going to tell you that your homework assignment is going to be page 81, and let's do problems. Page 81, problems 1 through 9. If you want any extra practice, well, maybe you should also look at doing page 83. Or maybe we could do 83 together in class. We'll see. If we don't do it in class together, then you work on page 83. All right? I hope that helps you with comparing and ordering rational numbers. Have a wonderful day.